welcome to 5 Question Friday, my favorite episode of the week. You guys ask questions, I answer them. Let's get into it. Michelle asks, what are some good guidelines for coaches? What an awesome question and a very timely question, Michelle, because literally 2 days ago I wrote up our new coaches standards. So I'm going to share them with you really quickly. Later in the week I'll do a full-on video where we'll go into depth, but basically it's 10 points. And the points are, as a professional coach, I will respect the member's journey, respect the member's time, look the part, give 100% of my focus to the class, hold the standard, keep relationships professional, be prepared, always strive to be better, lead by example, and always be grateful. Now, in the actual document that I'll put out next week, we go into way more detail about what this is, and we go into some practical measurements, because they all sound good and they all feel good, but we need some practical, okay, what does it mean to look the part? What does it mean to respect their time? What does it mean to keep relationships professional? So in the actual document, it goes into some standards and exactly practical expressions of how we achieve that. So I'll go through that in detail next week or the week after, but for now, yes, we have professional coaching standards, and they're the basics. You can extrapolate from there as you wish. Good question, Michelle. Thank you. Next question from Heinrich. How do you deal with rep cheaters? This is a really common question, and it's one of my least favorite questions because people usually don't like the answer. So I'll answer it in 2 parts. How do you deal with rep cheaters? I can't answer that for you because that's kind of conflict resolution, and that very much comes down to you and your personality. Me personally, I don't mind conflict. If I'm being honest, I kind of like it, and so I address it very clearly, very directly. I talk to the member after class. I say, hey, I noticed you're doing this. Why are you doing that? Explain to me what's going on here, and I approach it directly. Some people who don't like conflict as much will do it as, they'll do a post or they'll do a video about the important. It really comes down to you. So honestly, Heinrich, I can't answer how you deal with it. That's got to be up to you. The only wrong answer is you don't deal with it. You have to deal with it in some way, shape or other, because I guarantee if it's pissing you off, it's pissing your members off as well. What I want to talk about more importantly is, why are they cheating reps, right? What part of the culture that you have at the box is making this person think that they can cheat reps? Now, it's easy to think, well, Ty, they're just an asshole, and that's what assholes do, they cheat reps. But most of these people aren't assholes. When we look at it, it's usually a result of an overly competitive culture, or a culture that's focusing on the wrong part of training, right? It's a culture that's focusing a little bit too much on, oh, I got RX, or I came first, a culture that constantly leaderboards, right? And they're always looking, I want to get first, I want to get second. And so there's a reason behind why they're cheating those reps. They're not just doing it because they're an asshole, they're doing it because the culture is making them want more, right? So I would say deal with it in your own way, but make sure you deal with it, pull them aside, talk to them, do a blog post, whatever. But first and foremost, ask why do they think that's okay? Why do they think they need to do that? What is going on with our culture? Are we putting too much focus on the competitive side? There's a big difference between competition and healthy competition. Are we putting too much focus on the competition side of things? And is that why they're doing it? So, hope that answers the question, Heinrich. Andy, how many continuing professional development courses should you put your coaches on per year? 4, 2, 6? I don't know. I don't have a perfect number for you, Andy, but I will give you a little add-on that we have to our coaches' pay scale, coaches' pay grades, that helps us decide this. So we use a pay grade system with all of our coaches. So there's a pay grade 1, pay grade 2, pay grade 3. Pay grade 1 would be your beginner coach. Pay grade 2 would be your experienced coach. Pay grade 3 would be a senior or head coach. And each one of those guys have different prerequisites for their level. They have different pay grades, but included in our pay grades is a continuing education fund or a bonuses section. And what we do is we, for each of the different pay grades, we put aside a certain amount per year that they can use on mutually agreeable courses or ongoing education. So a few points there. Firstly, mutually agreeable, right? It's got to be agreeable by them and by you. You've both got to want it. It's got to benefit the box, right? It doesn't benefit you to have 6 coaches all with their level 400 weightlifting cert. You don't need that many weightlifting experts. So it has to be something that you can see the value in as a box and they can see the value in as a coach. Now, how much do we put into this? Well, that really depends on you. It depends on how much money you're making. It depends on your currency. But I'll talk really easily, just a general amount in US dollars. For pay grade 1, it's usually $250 a year. Pay grade 2, $500 a year. Pay grade 3, $1,000 a year. And I know a lot of you guys are gasping and thinking, wow, that's way too much. We've got this many coaches. Obviously, you've got to be making real money to be able to do this. So make real money. Right? It's great to be able to support our coaches and send them to these courses, but you got to make real money to do it. That's what a business does. It makes fucking money. Another thing I want to look at here is don't get too obsessed with formal training, right? Especially with just CrossFit certs. There's just CrossFit certs. There's a lot of great certifications out there that aren't CrossFit certs, right? So don't just get your head stuck up your ass with the CrossFit world. There's a lot of other great stuff out there. But beyond that, beyond the formal training, there's a lot to be said about formal mentorship, right? Don't be afraid to encourage your coaches to go out and find a mentor in whatever their speciality is. So all of your coaches are CrossFit coaches, as well as, that guy's the weightlifting guy, that guy's the nutrition guy, that girl's the kettlebell girl. Everyone should have their own little speciality in addition to CrossFit. That brings an extra depth and width to the box, to your coaching staff. So they can use this ongoing education fund, continuing education fund, they can use this to travel and see their mentors and spend time with them as well. So don't get too egotistical about that and think that you're their only mentor. It's a great thing for them to go outside and get other people. Hope that answers your question in an roundabout way, Andy. How many coach development courses per year? There's no set number, but we can put a structure in place so that we can find some mutually agreeable courses to do. Quick break. Coming up, seminars. Yes, you've got to deal with this every week. The videos are free, so fucking deal with it. In Manchester, March 18th and 19th at Reebok CrossFit Stockport, we'll have the affiliate seminar, 2 days of all of this stuff plus more. You get booklets, it's really cool. And then in Manila, in the Philippines, at CrossFit Ortigas, May 20th and 21st. I'd really, really love to see you guys there. Someone asked me the other day, why would I need to come to a seminar if you're putting out these daily videos? These videos barely scratch the surface. We can do 500, 1,000 of these, and they barely scratch the surface of what you'll learn at the seminar. So if you're serious about taking your affiliate to the next level, you're not just watching these videos for funsies, you're serious about being a business owner and committing to it, see me there. Manchester, 18th and 19th of March, and Manila, 20th and 21st. Links will be up above. All right, back to the question. Manuel asks, we're thinking about moving boxes. What are some considerations? Awesome question, Manuel. There's a bunch of considerations here. Number one, do you really need to? Right? And I know in Manuel's situation he does, but for a lot of you guys are thinking, oh, we could move, we need bigger space. Do you really need to? If you're just doing it for bigger space, you've got to ask, are we utilizing the space that we have already? Right? Are we really bursting at the seams here? Right? If you tell me you need to move because you can't fit any more members in here and you're running 5 classes a day, then I'm going to call bullshit. You're not bursting at your seams, right? If you're running classes on the hour, every hour between 4 a.m. and 10 p.m., okay, now you're bursting at the seams. But most boxes aren't even close to utilizing the space and utilizing the timetable. Not even close. So the first question is, do we really need to move, right? Because remember, moving, it costs a ton of money. Whatever you think it's going to cost, double it, triple it, it's going to cost a shitload more. It's a ton of headaches, right? You got to deal with councils and new equipment. You got to repaint the place. It's a lot of headaches, and often it's not worth it, right? Because at the end of the day, the people who decide value are the members, right? And just because you're doing what you used to do here, over here, that doesn't make it any more valuable, right? Which brings me to the next point. A lot of people say, oh, we're going to raise our prices now because we've moved. Our prices are directly related and proportionate to our value, right? And our value is determined by our members, right? So just because you have more square feet, that doesn't bring your members any more value in and of itself, right? Just because you have more classes, that doesn't necessarily bring your members any more value. If your members are happy with the classes that they're in, then why would they give a shit if you add more classes? Why would they give a shit if you go from 3,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet, right? You have to look at their experience. And if you go, okay, their experience is genuinely in a measurable way better, then you can charge more. But just because your overheads are higher, just because your rent and electricity is higher, just because you've hired more coaches, that doesn't mean shit. Just because your overheads have gone like this doesn't mean their price gets to go like this. Remember, their price is directly proportionate to the value that they received, not to your overheads. So that's one of the big mistakes I see when people move. They move and they think just because they've moved and it's cost them a bunch of money, they can offload those that cost to their members, and then they ring me crying because they've lost half their members. The price is directly proportionate to value, not to your overheads. So 9 times out of 10 when people say, Ty, I want to move, my question is, why? Do you really need to, or do you just want to? Are you bored? Right? We do a lot of shit because we're bored, right? We've been in this place for 5 years. I'm just kind of sick of this, kind of sick of that. We might move. Most of the time you don't need to. Most of the time you can utilize the square footage. It's a word, write it down. The square footage that you've got, you can revamp and remodel the place very cheaply. A coat of paint does wonders, and not need to move. Cool. Hope that answers the question, Manuel. Next question is a live question from my good friend and super coach, Vakey.
Hey Ty.
Hey man.
Question for you. If someone was thinking about opening a new affiliate, what would be your one piece of advice you'd give them? If you had to choose one piece of advice, what would that number one piece of advice be for a new person opening a box?
Awesome question. My number one bit of advice, if you're out there right now and you're thinking, Ty, I want to open a box, what's your first bit of advice? It is, don't do it. Don't do it, right? If you just think you want to do it, if you're like, that'd be cool, don't do it. And then I want to see what your reaction is. If your reaction is, oh, really? Okay. Then you were never meant to do it anyway, right? If your reaction is, no, Ty, fuck you, I want to do it. I'm serious about this. I want to be a business owner. Then we can have a chat, right? Then we can start talking about other important bits of advice, about your mindset, the wolf versus spider mentality, about running systems, about what software to run, about how to lay out the box, all of that kind of stuff. But the first thing that I would say is don't do it, because too many people out there, too many coaches think that the only, unfortunately they're in a situation where the affiliate owner isn't paying them enough or paying them at all, and they think the only way to go to the next step to make any sort of money is to open their own box. It's usually a bad idea. You should open your own box because you want to be a business owner as well as a coach, not because you think, and we hear this all the time, man, I'm going to open my own box and I'm going to be able to work out like 4 or 5 hours a day. It's going to be like my own gym. I've got to pay rent, so I'll get a few members. If that's what you're thinking, pack your bags, get on your bike and go coach somewhere else, right? Owning a box is owning a business, and you have to be a serious business owner. So if you want to own a box, and I know there's a lot of you coaches out there that do, and I say to you, don't do it, and you turn around and go, fuck you, Ty, I want to do it, then we have a conversation. If you have that kind of passion and you're serious about being a business owner, as serious about being a business owner as you are about being a coach, then we can have a conversation. And feel free to message me. That's it, guys. That's my 5 question Friday. A bunch of good questions. So, quick recap. Guidelines for coaches. We've got the 10-point coaches standards. I'll put it out in the next week or two. How do I deal with rep cheaters? You deal with it directly, but you first have to look at the culture and ask, why are they cheating those reps? Continuing professional development courses, you need to work it into the pay scales. You need to give your coaches something to strive for, something to look forward to. Seminars in Manchester, March 18th and 19th, May 20th and 21st. And moving blocks, what are some considerations? Firstly, do you really need to do it? Are you utilizing the current space? And lastly, advice for new box owners, don't do it. Now, I know a lot of people have turned off already. So if you haven't turned off, if you happen to be one of the 2% that watch all the way to the end, I want to give you 30 minutes of my time. So if you are still watching, I want you to send me a message and say, Ty, I watched all the way to the end, and we'll have a 30-minute Skype chat, because I know most of the other fuckers have already turned off, and I love you for sticking around. See you next week.